In this episode, we are going to talk about one key thing detailers have to understand in order to have long-term growth in their business. And that one key thing is going to be the word sustainable. So I'll give you plenty of examples of how to look at your business in a more sustainable manner so that you continue to grow, not just over the next 3 months, but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. And if you are looking for a sustainable marketing channel, I have two options for you. One is going to be if you want to learn the exact system I use to rank different websites on the first page of Google to generate leads and customers. I have a full in-depth course down below that you can check out in the show notes. It's literally the exact same system I've used over the last 10 years and continue to use to get results. And then two is if you want me to handle all the marketing for you, just click the link down below again, and you can book a call so we can have just basically get on the phone call and talk about whether we're a good fit, and I can kind of break down how we do things. But those are the two things you can do right now to start actually marketing your business for long-term growth. Aside from that, let's get started with this episode. Okay, so the first part that I want to talk about is when you're marketing your business, or you plan on marketing it, or you're currently marketing it, and you're trying to figure things out. The key thing that I think we don't pay attention to because we're so focused on wanting to grow fast and wanting to increase our revenue and keep on growing and growing is the key. And I've been saying this over the last few episodes now, is that the key word to what you do in marketing and how you grow your business should be sustainable. That's a very, very, very key thing you have to be aware of. Because again, like in the last episode that I've been giving you an example of that, I have something in my eye, that if you start running, $1,000 in ads because you're like, man, I really want to grow. I'm gonna put this on my credit card, and as I get more clients, I'm gonna pay off my credit for the ads, let's say. And so you're like, okay, cool, like let's start running 1,000, and you start getting clicks and leads and customers, and you say again, oh man, like it's going good, but I want to grow faster. Let me get to 2,000 a month in ad spend, right? So now again, doing the same process where like you're so focused on growth that you think like eventually your customers and your revenue will outgrow the ad spend, and then you start paying off your debt or your ads, or maybe you're not using debt and you're just paying everything cash, and you're hoping that the revenue comes faster than that next bill so that you can pay that off and keep on running ads. And the problem with things like that, and not just that specific scenario, but whatever kind of marketing or strategy or tactics that you're doing, is that how long can you hold that, right? Because if, like, for instance, if you wanted to, let me do some simple math. If you said, hey, I want to run ads because I want customers, right? And, for whatever reason, you start running, $1,000 a month, right? And let's say like that's a good budget. But let's say to most people, it's like that's probably quite expensive, right? Because that's $1,000. So could you run that for the next 12 months? Meaning, can you actually spend 12,000 for the year on ads, right? And again, I am not against ads to any degree. We run them in our business. We're gonna double our ad spend next month. Like, they 100% work. But they don't work when you don't have everything else in place to make them work, right? Or it'd be your pricing, your offering, your efficiency, your budgeted hours, if you don't have all these other things in place, let alone your sales process, the sales follow-up, sending out invoices, doing it on a timely manner. If you don't have all these things in place, it becomes a lot more difficult to make things sustainable because it's a big cost. Like running ads is very, very, very costly, right? Yes, it works. It's an investment only if you can actually have a positive ROI for the long run, right? And again, the key thing that I want to point out here, right? It's sustainable. Is this a sustainable marketing channel? Because you can run $1,000 a month and you're like, yeah, I'll do that for 3 months and get a bunch of clicks and leads and customers, right? But once you stop running those ads after 3 months, the leads go down, the clicks go down, and the customers go down. So in this scenario, like, I would rather, like, let's say you have 3,000 to spend, right? Let's say on ads, or not even that. Yeah, let's just say 3,000, right? So instead of saying like, oh, you want to get super aggressive and do $1,000 a month. Again, I'm just using very generic examples here just because I'm trying to paint a picture. Instead of you spending $1,000 a month and hoping things like turn around and that you're able to book in more customers and make more money and like in those 3 months flip it and your revenue can now offset the ads or the debt that you're getting. I would rather you spend $3,000 because what happens most of the time is that it doesn't. Because again, it's not just about getting the clicks and the leads and the customers. That's a big part of it, but it's still just a part of the overall system you need to be successful and grow your business, right? So what happens is after those 3 months, like it doesn't work out as intended because again, something is wrong in the process in the funnel, and you're just not turning out the revenue and the profit that you thought you were, right? Now, what a lot of people would do is, hey, let's go from $1,000 a month and let's go to 2,000 a month, and maybe that'll change things, right? So again, you get more clicks, you get more leads, you get more customers, but fundamentally, you don't fix the underlying problem, whatever that underlying problem is, right? This is just a made up example, but you don't fix the underlying problem so that even if you go to $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month in ad spend, nothing changes because the underlying problem is still there, right? So you can't just pump money into ads and say, oh well, I mean, if we just book in more customers, we'll make more money. Most often than not, it's not true. Because again, like if you're not making money with $1,000 a month in ads, you're not going to make money spending $3,000 a month in ads because it's not about the ads at that point, right? Granted, if it's the quality of the leads, the services that you're offering, the services that you're marketing for, that can also be a thing. Which is why again I say like it's not just one. It's never just one thing, right? It might be one segment, one system, one part of the system, right? Like it's not just the ads, but in the ads ecosystem that you're running, it could be your landing page, it could be your copy, it could be your creative, it could be your targeting, right? So in that regard, it could be that one thing, but it's never like, oh, I changed my headline and oh, okay, so now I'm getting much better customers. It doesn't work like that, right? It's a collective thing between multiple factors in this one thing that makes up the results, right? So instead of spending like $1,000 a month thinking like, oh man, let's just go after it and really hammer it home and like let's get as many customers as we can. Instead, right, and you run it for 3 months. Again, all made up examples. But instead of spending $3,000 in 3 months, I would rather you spend $250 per month for 12 months, right? Because yes, things are going to move much slower, but you can let it run for a lot longer, right? Because like it just what's going to help you for the long run? Because again, if you have, let's go to the extreme and you're spending $3,000 a month on ads, right? Of course, you're going to get more leads and more customers, right? You're going to make money. But again, top line revenue doesn't give you an insights into your business, right? If you say you make 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, it doesn't mean much if you don't have everything else in place. So you can still make little to no money, even though you're making $50,000 in revenue per month, right? And you might say, oh, how is that? Well, because there's just so many things like, and realistically, it comes down to like three main things, right? One, your pricing. Two, your available capacity hours in terms of how many hours can you actually book out. And then three, your budgeted hours. Those are kind of the three things you have to look at in terms of how to schedule and how much money you're going to make, because you don't schedule based off of revenue. You schedule based off of available budgeted hours, right? And I kind of went over this in the 1 or 2 episodes ago, so I won't. And then again, like this could be it's gonna be a 5-hour class if you wanted to do. But again, yeah. So it's like I would rather you spend $250 a month for 12 months versus $1,000 a month for 3 months, right? One is a lot more sustainable. Yes, it's going to move slower, but this gives you a lot. Like, I've talked to quite a few detailers now, and the problem when you get into the like, oh, I just want to grow, and I'm spending $2,000 a month on ads here, and I'm paying $1,200 a month for this SEO company, and I'm running ads on Yelp, and it's like all this volume, right? Now, if it's only you doing all the work, right, and you're so maxed out on work, like you're like, man, I'm working like 60 hours a week right now. Again, since you don't have the underlying fundamentals set in place, you'll always be running around with your head cut off. And the funny thing is, if you just took a step back and let's say you're spending, $2,000 to $4,000 a month in marketing to generate leads, and you're fully capped out at 60 hours, you're just working literally Monday to Monday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you just took a step back, you could say, okay, one, I'm literally not able to get to all these leads. So I'm missing out a lot of work because I literally can't get to the work, which means in that situation, you can do technically you can do three things. One, decrease your marketing because you literally can't even get to a certain percentage of the leads because you have so much work. So why even create that much demand for your business? One, right? So one, you're still going to be fully maxed out because you're already booked out. But instead, you're not going to have as much excess leads that you can't get into. So you're going to save on revenue, on marketing spend. So boom, just right there, I'm making up numbers. If you're spending $2,000 a month, spend $1,500 a month, right? Boom. Assuming you're running that for the whole year, you just put $6,000 in your pocket for profit, like just like that. Just because you eliminated $500 a month in ad spend, and if you do that for the whole year, that's $6,000 that you just gained back. Because like just to break even on the ad spend, if you're spending $2,000 a month, you have to make $24,000, right? And if you cut that by 500, you just added $6,000 to your pocket, just like that. So that's one, decrease your marketing spend. If you have an excess amount of leads that you can't even get into, that you can't even manage because you're so booked out already, decrease that. Two is you can raise your prices. Like if you are working 60, 70 hours a week and you're just fully booked out and you're like, this is so much work, simply raise your rates. Like if you are at full capacity, right? Absolutely. You're just like, oh man, I'm working like a dog day and night. Whatever you're charging, increase the prices by 15%. If you're truly that booked out and you have that amount of quality lead flow coming into your business, literally increase your prices by 15 or 20%. Like if you're getting, let's say, making up numbers here, 100 leads a month, and you're booking out your schedule with, 60 hours of budgeted hours per week, right? If you can increase your prices by 15, 20, 25%, and instead of working 60 hours a week, and you work 45 hours a week, right? Even though you're not going to book nowhere near as many customers, you've literally just increased your margins by, whatever price you increase them by, without changing anything else, without hiring someone, without decreasing your ad spend, or let's say you do that too. You just added X amount of dollars to your bottom line instantly like that because you raise your prices, right? So again, if you're like, man, there is so much work. Like I literally cannot keep. I'm booked out 2 months in advance. So many calls, so many invoices, so many jobs I have lined up. Increase your prices by 20%. Literally even if you have such good quality leads, just go after the 0.111% because you have such high demand, right? Again, and that greatly impacts your bottom line. Like you just instantly you'll literally. Like, let's say you are working 65 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and then you're able to drop the capacity of 40 hours a week. You'd literally work 80 hours less per month or 20 hours per week. You'd work 20 hours less per week, and you'd still make more money than if you were working 60 hours a week at a lower price point. You see what I'm saying? Third one, this is the most hardest one if you're already in the trenches and you're working like a dog, is hire help. Now, this one's going to be the most difficult because, again, if you're already in that mode of like, I'm all over the place, like 60 hours of my week goes straight to working on cars, you literally have no time or no peace of mind to say, oh, I need to hire someone. I need to create systems to hire someone. Where do I hire someone? What's the interview process like? What's the onboarding process like? How do I train them up? How do I set their hourly rate? How are we going to do this over the next 3 months? You have no time to do anything. That whenever you do hire someone, it's so out of whack that you don't give them the proper training, the proper resources. You don't give them time to really develop, to really become like a profitable, efficient employee for you, that you're like, oh my God, there's no good workers around here. And then you blame it on the workers, which again, like if you have the proper training, the proper onboarding, the proper resources, the proper leadership, 80% of the work or the problems is on it's because of you. Right? Like it's so easy to be like, there's just no good workers anymore. When again, you're not giving the training, the resources, the time, the leadership, but yet it's the workers that are bad. And it's not you, right? It's the workers. Which again, like if you're so caught into the weeds of like working like a dog, and I keep on saying that because I like the way it sounds, like working like a dog. It's from that one meme. They got me working like a dog day and night. If you're working that much, you don't have the open mind, the peacefulness, the clarity to be like, okay, so how, let me sit down on my computer and how am I going to do this? Who am I looking for? Where am I going to look at? What's a proper range to pay this employee? Because then, like, if you want to hire, like, if you want to be legit, and which you should, and you have an LLC and you're going to sign them up as a W-2 employee, like an actual, like, they withhold taxes, you pay the taxes. If you're going to do something like that, it takes more time. And guess what? It takes more money. And it's a much bigger learning curve. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, if you just need some help and, like, again, I started off by hiring my cousin and I would just Zelle him the money every day. But as you expand and grow and you want a more, again, like, if you're so like, oh, there's just no more good workers anymore. It's like, well, you don't have a real business that a real worker would want to come be at, right? Like someone that legitimately has a good work ethic, that wants to help the company grow and wants to help and wants to be successful wherever they work at. Well, they don't want to get paid cash. They want to be at a real company that has real standards and has a real vision. But again, it's there's no good workers, right? Like that's the real problem, right? It's not the leadership, it's not the company, it's not the owner. It's there's no good workers, right? And again, like that's just the honest truth, right? So again, like growth for the sake of growth means nothing, right? And for those that, like, again, because I see this so often where you're so stuck, you have this tunnel vision of like, oh, let's grow. But you don't see an end in sight. And you can tell, like, it's just going to lead to burnout, right? The cost of the marketing gets higher and higher. So you feel like you have to go push harder and harder. And again, because you're so stuck in the weeds of doing all the work and you don't have time for anything else, that things just start getting more clustered together, and you want to hire someone and you do hire someone, but their quality is not good and you don't have enough time to train them, and you keep on growing and, man, we need to raise our prices and book out more schedules. And at the end of it, going back to what I said in the beginning, it's not sustainable. So in order to be successful long-term, is what is a sustainable option? Again, ads 100% work. We run ads. We're going to double our ad spend next month. The thing is, how do you make it a sustainable thing? Which is why if I'd rather see you spend $250 a month for 12 months versus $1,000 a month for the first 3 months and then say, oh, this is just not working out. This is not good, right? You have to be okay with moving slower, right? But that's what your budget allows, right? Like if you want to go to the absolute extreme end of an example, if you have a tech startup that raised a Series A round, right, of funding, and they got let's say 20 million in funding from investors, right? They're able to grow at a rapid speed because they have $20 million in funding to just dump into their business. So they could start spending $1,000 a day in Facebook ads. They could spend $1,000 a day in Google ads. They can hire top engineers and marketing specialists and product specialists. They can go out and do all these crazy things because they have 20 or whatever I said, 10, $20 million in funding, right? And then once they keep on growing and they get to a certain, and by the way, all these tech startups, at least, I mean, I haven't really kept up with tech startups too often, but back then, you could run at a loss. For instance, Uber, right? The ride-sharing platform, they weren't profitable until like 4 years ago, right? Amazon was not profitable for the longest of time, like maybe like 6 years ago, they started to turn a profit. Why? Because they have so much funding behind them that is what helps them fuel the growth. Like they're not focused on profitability. They're focused on revenue and expanding, right? They want to take market share. They'll figure out the profitability later. 99% of all other businesses, whether it's home service, tech, e-commerce, doesn't matter, do not have that flexibility because they don't have 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, 100 million, $1.3 billion in funding, right? So again, is it possible? Yes, but no one has that kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong. People do, like, if there's home service businesses out there that get funded by private equity, right? That they get rolled up and they go and buy this HVAC for $10 million and then they roll it up into another company and boom, now you have a marketing budget of $200,000 a month because you're now rolled up against this conglomerate of a national company that's in 15 other states. Again, it's not that it's not possible, but like it's, for us deed sellers, for most businesses, we can't just immediately start running as much, as much ads and all these crazy marketing campaigns because it won't last, right? And if you want, if you have the mentality of like, oh, go grow in revenue, and I don't know my numbers, and I don't know how much profit we're making, and I can't hire anyone, but grow. What ends up is you just get burnt out. And then at the end of it, you're like, you look around, you're like, what did I do all that for? Like, what did I get from this? Like, where's the money? Where's the profit? Where's the, like, where is it? Where's everything at? And that's because you're just too in the weeds that you couldn't take a step back and be like, okay, what's the landscape here? Like, what's the goal of my business? Again, if you come to me and say, hey, we're making 40,000 a month, it's like, yeah, and what? Doesn't mean that, like, that, it doesn't mean you're making money, right? Are you running at 5% profitability, 20, 15? Do you even know, right? Like, if you're gonna hire, if you have 4 employees, do you know how much revenue each employee is supposed to generate per year, right? How many budget hours are you putting on the schedule, right? If you don't know these numbers, you are literally always 100% of the time running in the blind. And you might say, oh, well, we have $8,000 worth of work for this week. It's like, what does that mean though? I don't know. I mean, is that good? Is that bad? I mean, like, it means nothing if you don't have the numbers in place. Which is why, again, like, I'm kind of making the episode because I've talked to quite a few detailers, and it's like it's really hard to like give them a clear picture because their heads are so into like like it's so tunnel vision into like the day-to-day work that they can't take a step out because they're so just entrenched in like what's going on day to day that it's really hard to have a high level overview of the business. And again, like if you are making 50,000 a month, let's say, and let's say you're not making money, you're not profitable. Well, since you have the revenue there, there's things that you can immediately do to fix it, right? For one, like if you figure out what your actual capacity hours is per week, and then you match that against your budgeted hours, and you see that like we're actually there's actually, I'm making up numbers here, 100 budgeted hours per week, but we have 140 hours of labor per week. So that means there's 40 excess hours of labor that I have on payroll that there's nothing to work for. So what, you decrease someone's hours, you let someone go, or if you don't want to do that, you raise your rates to create more margin and to create more budgeted hours on every single job. So the good thing is there's always, you always have something to do. If you have, you can always fix something. But a lot of times, like, people just don't want to see that revenue number go down because they're like, oh no, we want to make more money. But again, like, someone that's making 50,000 a month, remember, like, profit wise, not top line revenue. Someone that's making 50,000 a month can make less than someone that's making 30,000 a month in revenue, right? That's why, like, saying a revenue number doesn't mean much. Because there's so much more that goes into it. So the key part to marketing everything is going to be sustainable. Like, again, I'm going back to this, and not just marketing, really. It's really like growing your business. Like, what is a sustainable option, right? Now, is spending $4,000 a month sustainable? I'd say to most people, probably not. Like, can you run $4,000 a month for the next 6 months or for the next 6 years? Probably not. Not that you should, right? I mean, there's times where you're so booked out that, you're at that point where you have more brand recognition, you have more repeat customers, you have more word of mouth. So, at months, at year 2, you're like, hey, we can actually decrease it from 2,000 a month to, $1,000 a month because, like, we have the lead flow. Like, if we drop the revenue, the ad spend from 2,000 to 1,000, that's, it's actually not going to have that much of an impact on our business in terms of lead generation, because you knock off $1,000 a month in ad spend, right? That's an additional $12,000 that you just added to your bottom line because you reduced the cost of that, So that's what I'm saying in terms of, like, it's the key term you want. And again, there's, you want to be sustainable, but obviously there's going to be areas or segments in your business where it is more like working hard, right? Where it's not sustainable. Because there's learning curves, right? There's, it might be a couple of months, might be a couple of years where, like, you're just, like, really in it because you're trying to figure everything out. So it's not like, oh, like, the second I get too busy, like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not saying it like that. It's more so of, like, be aware, because yes, you're going to have the dog days where, like, you're just like, oh, we're in it. Like, this is crazy. Like, we're working right now. But again, if it's not, if you don't have a plan around it, it's not going to be sustainable. And, regardless of what you are doing, you're going to burn out, crash out. You're going to hire the wrong people. You're going to lose money. And then at the end of it, you're going to be like, why don't we just go down? Why don't we just drop down to a fewer employees? Why don't we just, like, kind of scale back a bit? Which, again, it's not wrong, but the difference is one is controlled and the other isn't, right? If you grow at a more sustainable pace, like, you can have more control of the decisions you're making, versus when you're not in control, you're just like, oh, this guy just left, and oh man, like, we're customers are upset over here, and oh man, well, let me work, let me come in on Sunday as well and try to knock out this work. That's when it's no good, because, I mean, again, Key word here is being sustainable, right? That is the key word here. So then let's actually do one little exercise, because if you are, let's say and again, like this is all contextual. Like I don't know what growth means. I don't know what too much means to you. So take whatever I say and you have to mold it to fit whatever it is you're going through. So let's say with employees, right? So let's say let's say you're growing and such, and you want to figure out like how many employees do you need. Again, and it's going to be different for every business. It's not a one size fits all. So and again, like between if you're doing just detail services, between correction coding, between film services, the hourly rates are going to be completely different. So let's say you have let's think outside perspective. Let's say you have a mobile unit that you're not running, So you have a mobile unit that's running, right? And you have 2 employees, right? So let's just do this quick. So do this exercise if this fits your situation, right? You have 2 employees that run 1 mobile unit, right? You have 1 mobile unit. So if they're both working 40 hours a week, right? That's going to be 80 hours of work hours, right? You sticking with me here? Okay, so that's 80 work hours, right? 8 hours that they're going to be clocked in. Now, since you're mobile and you drive to the customer location, you got to set up, you got to prep, whatever. Let's say so they're not clocked in on a job 100% of the time, right? Because they only produce revenue when they're clocked in on a customer's vehicle, right? Driving, prepping, whatever else makes no money for you. So if they are at, let's say, 85% efficient, right? Efficient not in terms of how fast they move and get the job done. Efficient in terms of clocked in time to clocked in on a customer's vehicle, right? So general time would be, clocking in, driving to the customer's location, or prepping the van, or bringing the at the end of the day, cleaning and unloading the van, right? But clocked in on a car is when they're actually producing revenue. So let's say they're at 85% efficiency, right? Together. So that means per week they have around 68 hours that they can actually work, right? So when you're scheduling your calendar, when you're booking out your schedule, you can see that if they are at if you have 68 hours of budgeted work, that means they're both going to work full time that week, right? Like there's enough hours clocked in. So that means they have 68 budgeted hours for the week, right? Now, if your goal per hour per man is to hit, let's say, $80 an hour, that means for this week, for this week coming up, if you have 68 budgeted hours on the calendar and you're going to multiply that by 80 hours, by $80, because each hour you want to make $80 an hour, then on the schedule, you need to have $5,440 of work, right? So that is your simple litmus test. If you have a mobile unit going out with a crew of 2 and they're working full time, which is 40 hours a week, and they operate at 85% efficiency versus, again, efficiency means when they're clocked in versus when they're clocked in on the job, right? Which, it helps if you have clocked in hours and such. That gives us a 68 budgeted hours that you can schedule for that week, right? So if there's 50 hours, they're still not at capacity. I can still book in 18 more hours of work. Or if you booked in 72 hours of work, you'll let them like, hey, one of these days is going to go a bit longer because we booked in a bit more work than usual. So, and again, if you want to make $80 per man per hour, again, if there's 2 people on the job and you say, oh, we want to make $100 an hour, that's not $100 an hour. That's $50 per man per hour. And you don't combine those to make $100. It has to be per person, right? So at $80 an hour, there's theoretically, because it might change here and there, but as just a pretty high level overview, you should have $5,440 on the schedule. Now, if you're looking at your schedule and you're like, oh, well, we have $4,500 on the schedule and they're still working full time. It's like, okay, so at that point now, is it your pricing, right? Because at that point, either you're charging $70 an hour. I don't know. What is that? I can tell you right now. 4,500 divided by 68. Yeah, so you might be thinking we're charging $80 an hour, but realistically, based on how much revenue you have, right? Like let's say you're still booking out 68 hours of work per week, but you're only making $4,500 for that week. Then realistically, you're charging $66 an hour per man, right? So on that one, it might be, oh, okay, well, with that one, let's add more budgeted hours. So let's increase the price, right? If you thought you were at 80, but you're actually charging 66, okay, well, start charging $80 an hour now. And again, that might be pretty difficult for some services, right? Because that's why there's a difference between. That's why your hourly rate is on a range, because the detailing to correction and coatings to film, those all will have varying hourly rates. So you could look at your it could be your budgeted hours, and can you increase that, or can you increase your hourly rate, or is it that your team's very slow and like they're not that efficient, and your mobile unit isn't, it doesn't have reels and like the proper machines or equipment, and like they're doing things pretty like manual, so to speak. So you can look at all those things. So that's how, like, a very simple exercise of how to see like how much revenue should that mobile unit between those two people generate you, right? So again, yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that one. So hopefully that helped you out to some degree. But again, key phrase here that we want to focus on is, how do we make this sustainable for the long term, right? Which again, that's why so much I put so much emphasis on my website and SEO, because it's been a sustainable option for the last 10 years. Like since 2014 to 2025, my website has continued every single day. Well, not literally, but like Monday through Saturday, it's generating leads. My website every day for the last 10 years has brought in customers. For the last 10 years, every day is generating leads without me spending money on ads for Google, without me it's not like social media where you have to post every day. I don't touch my website every single day. I mean, there's times where I don't edit anything for like months to years on end, right? And right now I'm going through my whole website and updating and adding a lot of things, because I'm trying to prep myself for the next 10 years that it's going to continue to rank on the first page of Google, right? So again, that's a very sustainable option. Social media can be a very sustainable option, right? That doesn't mean you post 3 times a day, every day, Monday through Sunday, because let's say that wouldn't be sustainable. But if you figure out a process and a method where you post once a day, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, that's a lot more sustainable, right? Again, ads 100% work. But if you spend $1,000 a month for 3 months and then call it quits, that's not very sustainable. But if you do, $300 a month every month for the next 12 months, a lot more sustainable. You see what I'm saying? So you can always make something unsustainable if you just go all out without being more controlled about it. So that's the key thing we want to look at here. And by the way, quick plug: if you want to learn how to do SEO yourself and basically follow the exact system I've used over the last 10 years, my voice is correct. You can sign up for the course down below. And if you want me to do the SEO for you, you can hire us to do that. And you can book a call with me down below in the show notes or in the description to get more information on that. And again, like for $100 a month for the course, you literally get the exact same playbook that I use to rank my own website, my lawn care website, or clients' websites. So if you want to actually learn how to properly do SEO, just check out the courses down below. But aside from that, I'll end it right here. Again, I received a few messages about the whole like budgeted hours things. So I'll try to make more content around that, because like if you don't have that down, you don't have a real grasp on your business. Again, there's $40,000 worth of work. What does that mean though? Right? Like, especially if you're doing like film and PPF and tint, it's like, well, that's not all labor revenue. Like not a majority, but a good percentage of that is probably going to be cost of goods sold, right? Your material cost. So are you accounting for that? Because that's not that's just cost of goods sold. Now you might be marking it up, and maybe there's a bit of profit in there, which I don't do. But again, that's the importance of like knowing this, because that's you're a PPF tint shop, and you're like, hey, we made 40,000 this month, and then you look at your material costs, and you're like, oh, and I'm just making up numbers here. 8,000 of that was material. Oh, so it's 32,000 in labor revenue, where you actually make money because you didn't upsell, or you didn't profit, you didn't mark up the material cost, right? And then so like that's the true reality of running the business, is like knowing what revenue's at, where your profit's at, and how you're actually turning a profit through all the work that you're doing. Because again, you can make 50,000 a month and still not have any money at the end of the month. That's just how it goes. So thank you very much. I'll talk to you on the next one.